Coffee is one of the most consumed psychoactive substances on Earth.
Instituto de investigación que se conoce como CENICAFE, como les estaba mencionando ahorita. CENICAFE es un acrónimo para el Centro Nacional de Investigación en Café.
And yet, most people have no idea how it's actually produced.
He's just showing us.
Hola, Carlos.
Ebullición. Si tú la dejas demasiado caliente.
This is 10 kilos?
Yes.
Oh my God. Not just harvested, but produced biologically, economically, chemically, industrialized, branded, and ultimately exported.
Can you imagine buying 1 or 2 acres here and growing some beans? Because that's what these ladies did. There's only a couple of acres, unless they have more.
I wonder how much does something like that cost, you know? Suppliers and purchasers have to actually negotiate those prices, it sounds like. So it's not a straightforward process of just exporting. Of course it's not, right? So while I was in Colombia, I went into the mountains outside of Medellín to see with my own eyes how one of Colombia's most important industries actually functions.
Natural, honey,
Oh, wow.
y lavado. If you get closer, you can see and smell how different they smell. No. He roasted.
He roasted.
Yes.
Carlos
Carlos is the
roasted.
one that you.
And what I found was much more technically sophisticated and labor intensive than I ever imagined. One of the first things that stood out immediately was the terrain itself. The plantation sat in steep green mountains outside of Medellín, surrounded by humidity, tropical vegetation, fruit trees, and bamboo forests. Take a look at all these bamboo trees. Wow, this random hammock. I wonder if there's someone sleeping on that hammock. This terrain matters economically because unlike Brazil, which dominates global coffee production, partly because of flatter terrain and industrialized machinery, Colombian coffee production relies much more intensely on human labor.
So that's why all the harvesting in Colombia is handpicked.
I mean, I would think there's got to be a more efficient process for collecting the beans other than manually picking them. You can't easily send massive harvesting machinery through terrain like this. So workers manually inspect cherries for ripeness with their own hands. Bright red cherries are generally ripe, and greener cherries aren't fully developed yet. And what surprised me was how much subjectivity and judgment still goes into this process of harvesting cherries. Okay, I'm gonna find the bean that's the most red in color and eat it and give it a try. Why the red one? Is the red's more ripe or
Yes,
the red's
red?
less ripe?
No. It's the ripest. Una uva,
We're gonna
¿cierto? No es
see.
como lo mismo que comerse esa fruta. Por eso es que el café inicialmente no fue popular como una fruta, sino como una bebida, porque realmente si no lo comemos,
I don't know, this one
this
looks pretty red.
Diariamente. Sí, es una fruta que tal vez no es, por eso el café se
¿Y
descubrió.
siempre es rojo o naranja?
And I can eat this?
Yes, you can eat it.
Not the seed
Not the
inside,
seed
just the
itself?
outside.
Just the outside,
Don't
yes,
throw
just the
the
skin.
yeah.
Don't throw the seeds.
Te la
The seed in
masticaste.
It's good.
It's good.
Yeah, it
How does it
is.
feel? Is it sweet?
It's sweet, but it's not overly sweet, and it's not like an artificial sweet. It's a natural sweet. It's very consumable, just like that.
Correct.
I mean, you could even buy it and eat those, just as is. Coffee is not harvested like corn. Workers are constantly making quality decisions in real time. The plantation also introduced us to things that most coffee drinkers don't even think about, like coffee genetics.
Line in the middle. You see that this line right here? So that line means that the coffee belongs to a family. The family of the coffee is Rubiaceae.
Well, most people every day drink coffee and never think about the plants, the production process, the different classification types, the different uses besides drinking it. When it comes to coffee, there are multiple species with different characteristics. There are 2 dominant global categories of coffee, Arabica and Robusta.
The ones that actually we just tried, it's the Arabicas, right? That's actually another one known as the Robusta that we were talking about that usually is really popular in India, Vietnam, or Brazil.
Arabica generally produces more sweetness, more acidity, more nuanced flavors alongside a lower caffeine content. Robusta tends to be heartier, more bitter, higher in caffeine, and easier to mass produce in hot climates. Because there's a lot of people out there like me that don't really care what the name is on it, that just wants the caffeine kick. And that's me. This distinction matters enormously because countries develop a reputation for their coffee partly based on these characteristics. Vietnam became heavily associated with Robusta production, and Colombia became associated with premium Arabica. The Plantation also discussed pink bourbon coffee, which has become increasingly famous in specialty coffee circles because of its floral and fruit-flavored profile. And once you start understanding how altitude, rainfall, soil chemistry, shade levels, and genetics interact together, you realize that coffee behaves much more like wine than most people assume.
Good or bad?
There's a science to it.
So,
And this is the Specialty Coffee
Association of America
Coffee Tasters Flavor Wheel.
Great, yeah.
With different
particular notes that we can perceive.
Different notes that can be
So you
perceived
have, like, the general-
according to human tastes.
General, and then you start going to more details as you go outside.
What also became obvious very quickly is that coffee production is environmentally sensitive. Coffee plants are biological systems, and these systems are constantly interacting with fungus, rainfall, temperature, soil conditions, insects, microorganisms, and the nearby vegetation. On the coffee plantation, we saw coffee rust, also known as la roya, which is a fungal disease capable of wiping out entire coffee plantations.
This is actually the roya. This is the fungus that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So we have damage by fungus and insects. So why do you think we have del Departamento de Agricultura de Estados Unidos?
And because coffee trees take at least 3 years to mature, farmers can't simply react quickly when conditions change. Coffee farmers are making multi-year bets under climate uncertainty. Is climate change a concern for coffee growers, for plantation owners?
It definitely is.
In the long run, I think, right?
Because, for example, the coffee prices skyrocketed 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because there was 2 hailstorms in Brazil back to back, and Colombia had 2 years of non-stop rain. So that made that the production went down, and of course, the demand was so high that the coffee price actually was like 5 times the regular price.
Yeah. It sounds like climate change affected supply. Not demand. Demand was there. Affected supply, driving prices up. A lot of people think climate change is a systemic economic issue. Coffee plantations will oftentimes grow fruit trees, plantain trees, and other types of vegetation to help regulate shade and help create an ecological balance around the coffee plants. So what may look like random jungle growth is actually part of a larger environmental system. Just blast right through it then, I guess. What's this, ¿Qué es una? Yeah, but what's the purple thing hanging off the bottom?
Flower. That's the flower of the plantain.
Oh.
After that, it's going to regrow a new sprout of...
That's the flower below the plantains. I was like, what the hell is that giant purple thing hanging off the bottom? One thing that I truly appreciated when visiting this coffee farm was that workers clearly viewed coffee as craftsmanship and not a simple industrial output. The workers spoke about coffee almost metaphorically. At one point, the roasting machine was described as the machine that allows the coffee to speak.
También al mismo tiempo esta máquina se conoce como la máquina que hace hablar al café, porque nosotros los que trabajamos con el café tenemos claro que el café habla y que el café se expresa. Nosotros ayudamos a que se exprese a través de esta máquina, aquí natural.
And that sounded quite poetic when I heard it. But after seeing the coffee production process firsthand, that statement Makes a lot of sense. Tiny adjustments in the roasting process can completely change the flavor profile. So the roasting process can take hours, and they can manipulate the attributes like the acidity, the color. After harvesting, the coffee undergoes fermentation and processing. And this is where chemistry becomes surprisingly important. The slimy coating around the bean, called mucilage, that actually plays an important role in fermentation. What people don't realize is that coffee production creates far more biological complexity and industrial experimentation than consumers realize. The beans are then separated partly through density sorting. Some float and some sink. And here it's separated by density as well?
Just by size.
Just by size?
Yes, the density is on these two machines right here.
Okay.
These two machines that we see. There's some air or fans on the bottom that they're going to make to float. So the more they float, they're going to come all the way to the right. If they don't float as much, they're just going to stay on this side and they're coming all the way here.
Wow. Density can indicate differences in quality and development. The beans are then dried either naturally in the sun or mechanically, depending on environmental conditions. And you dry it in the sunlight?
Yes.
Wow.
If it's raining too much,
you hear that?
It's raining a lot. We have this gas machine right here. We can actually put the coffee to dry out and remove the part of the humidity.
So once the coffee beans are sorted, they're taken over here to actually dry out in the sun. And how long does it take for them to dry out?
7 to 14 days.
7 to 14 days. So the quality is separated. But they're all laid out to dry it together, but they're careful to separate quality. And moisture control becomes very important because improper drying can actually harm the flavor profile. The workers explained how the roasting curve can dramatically change the flavor profile. I want to do this one.
You want to do this?
Yeah,
one?
what's it called? V60.
V60 click.
The V60 click.
It's called click,
the
but
V60
the regular V60
click.
is this.
Right, and it's called V60 because it's shaped like a V, and the angle of the cone is 60 degrees, I guess. Okay.
And after I grind it, you're gonna see
small changes in temperature, timing, airflow, and heat exposure can shift sweetness, bitterness, acidity, texture, and aroma. And one misconception that was addressed was the idea that darker coffee automatically means a stronger caffeine content. A darker roast usually means a smokier, heartier flavor profile, not necessarily more caffeine. In fact, lighter roasts often preserve more caffeine content by bean density. Grind size and extraction rates are also important. And one of the decision points for me is if it's dark or light. And I kind of assume that the darker ones have the more caffeine.
can extract more caffeine.
Oh.
Extracted, but it's the same level on the species. So remember, as a species, Robusta is always going to have more.
And now, I mean, the house blend, the morning blend, I know to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
There.
Smells good.
The acidity, the sweetness, and the bitterness.
If coffee is ground too finely, water can over-extract the compound and create bitterness. If the coffee grounds are too coarse, then extraction becomes weak or imbalanced. So even brewing itself can become a technical process involving physics, chemistry, and timing. What fascinated me the most was how this incredibly complex process of producing coffee and exporting it gets reduced to a simple product on a shelf. A latte, a morning routine. But behind this simplicity exists agriculture, climate risk, manual labor, industrial processing, global shipping, branding and marketing, and ultimately international trade networks. Even Colombia's coffee industry was carefully constructed. Juan Valdez, probably Colombia's most famous coffee farmer, wasn't actually a real person. He was a marketing concept designed to brand Colombian coffee internationally.
Colombian coffee, handpicked by Juan Valdez, the richest coffee in the world.
And honestly, it worked. Well, thank you so much for today. What was your name?
Juan.
Juan.
David,
Now,
if it's
not
easier.
Juan Valdez.
So yes,
All
all
right,
right,
cool.
guys. So as a good thing,
By the end of my Colombian coffee experience, I no longer thought of coffee as just a drink. To me, Colombian coffee feels much more like a global system built on biology, labor, geography, craftsmanship, branding, and risk management. And seeing that system up close, walking through the mountains outside of Medellín, talking to workers actually involved in the process, that changed the way that I think and feel about something most consumers drink casually every single day. Thank you for watching this video. Watch the next one too, and I'll see you real soon.